What's going on, everybody? It is TripleCrown24 back today with a new episode of the Sports Card Psychology Podcast, where we go inside the mind of the hobby. Thank you for joining me. This will be the first episode in what should be somewhat of a newer format, where I'm planning to tackle a lot of these episodes solo and presenting them in a shorter formats. Normally, I run 45 minutes to an hour. I'm going to aim for the 20 to 30-minute mark going forward, which if you watch my other content, then you'll know that might be a bit of a struggle for me. We'll see how it goes, though. Today's topic is about influencer boxes. What exactly is an influencer box? Well, there's no exact definition out there, but it is this concept that companies such as Topps, Panini, Upper Deck would purposely send out boxes that contain product hits, those 5-figure, 6-figure, or in the case of the one that you're looking at there, 7-figure cards to certain people in order to pull them. And today I want to see, is that true? Is that even possible that this could happen? And then I want to answer, if that is true, why would they do this? So specifically today, we're going to look at Panini. And in order to kind of test this theory out, we need to find someone who is incredibly lucky if this isn't true. And if it is true, who has been a beneficiary of it. So today, we're going to look at Backyard Breaks, who we've discussed on the show before. And they have pulled 3 cards this year alone that would fall into that category of what would probably be a life-changing card for a lot of people, or these cards are worth at least 5 figures. In the case of the triple logo man there, you see 2.4 million is what it's sold for at auction after it was sent to Golden. So let's take a look at the odds of how likely it is for Backyard Breaks to have pulled any of these cards. And the first one we're going to look at is the aforementioned LeBron logo man. So I'm going to zoom out for a second and then go back. Let's take a look at the odds. And all of our odds today are going to be coming from Cardboard Connection. Now, one of the big problems that we're going to run into when examining this today is that Panini does not put pack odds on their products. So there is going to have to be some assumptions made to even take a shot at answering this question. If I had more time to do more in-depth research, I would do it, but unfortunately I don't. So the flawless one is fairly easy to track down. So if you take a look here in an average box of flawless, you are expected to get 8 autographs, 1 memorabilia card, and 1 diamond card. And those diamond cards are considered your base set. So you see here we have 200 cards on the checklist, and the base are numbered to 20 for 100 of those cards. The rest of them are numbered to 5, as well as all of the parallels that you see here. So when you multiply it out and you figure how many total diamond cards are in the product, it comes out to 4,800, meaning that there are 4,800 boxes out there if there is 1 diamond card per box, which flawless comes in 2-box cases, so it would be 2,400 cases out there. So that is our odds to pull the LeBron triple logo man. If we were to rip a case of flawless, at the time that the product was first put out, if we were the very first ones to open it up, we'd have a 1 in 2,400 chance of pulling the triple logo man, assuming we opened the full case. So that is that one. That is the odds of that one specific event. Is it unreasonable? No. So now we go over to the next one. This one came a little bit later on, Prism Basketball. And you take a look at our Prism parallels here. We're going to get 22 Prism parallels per hobby box. I don't remember exactly how many of those are silvers, but typically you see about 1 numbered parallel per hobby box. And you'll see here there are a lot of different ones. Now, some of these aren't exclusive to certain formats, so not all of these are in play for a hobby box, especially these choice fast break ones. We're not even talking about those, but some of these in here you will not see. For example, the white sparkles are exclusive to the white sparkle packs. But what we're really focusing on is the black, or the finite, as some people call it. And the one that Backyard Breaks pulled is arguably one of the best ones you can get in Cade Cunningham. I'm a Pistons fan, so for me, it would be the best card you could hit. If you like one of the other rookies more, so be it. If Evan Mobley is your guy, if Josh Giddey is your guy, more power to you. But in this case, they did actually pull the Cade Cunningham card, and there are 330 cards on the checklist. So there are 330 of these finites out there. And again, it would take a lot of reverse engineering to kind of figure out how often you could expect to pull one of these 101 black prisms, specifically from this base set. For me, I'm going to give it a very, very conservative estimate. And let's pretend that one in every 4 cases had a 1 of 1. And from all the Prism breaks I have watched or listened to in the background, I can tell you right now that that is highly unlikely that that is the case. But for simplicity's sake, let's pretend that one in every 4 you get a 1 of 1. Well, in that case, it would be 1 in 1,400 cases to pull the exact 1 of 1 you're looking for, since there are 350 of them out there among the base checklist. So 1 in 1,400 cases. So better odds than what we saw with the LeBron triple logo man. Okay, let's move over to the last example. Is the Trevor Lawrence gold vinyl from Optic. They recently pulled this one, and when I saw this one pulled, there were people who were kind of bemoaning the fact that Backyard Breaks had pulled yet another huge card in the product. This is the base 1 of 1 gold vinyl, or I guess the non-autograph version, as you could call it. So we have to assume here that they have the rookies separated on this checklist. Let's just pretend that the rookies are the same odds to pull. You can see here that all the serial numbers line up. So we can deduce that for any given parallel, you are just as likely to pull any given vet as you are any given rookie, considering the fact that there's 100 rookies and 200 vets. Of course, your odds would be double that you would pull a vet compared to a rookie, just generally speaking. But for any specific player, it's fair game. It is even across the board. So if we take a look here at our average hobby box, you get 8 numbered parallels. That's it. And as you can see, it's a fairly lengthy checklist for parallels, not as many though. And you're getting a few more in a box. I would say the odds are probably roughly around the same as they are for Prism basketball. Maybe a little bit better, but for simplicity's sake, again, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that 1 in every 5 cases contains a gold vinyl. And again, from the optics that I have seen, that is probably very unlikely that that is the case. But there are 300 of these non-autographed gold vinyls out there. So to pull any of the specific players you want, we multiply that out times the 5 cases, which means the Trevor Lawrence one would fall 1 in every 1,500 cases. So again, if we look at our odds, they are not all that unreasonable. In fact, the 1 in 1,400, 1 in 1,500, I've seen crazier things happen for sure. Where it gets interesting is, what are the odds to pull all 3 of these cards? Well, one of the tricky things in examining this, as I'm going to pull up here the last little presentation that I have for you. Here we have our notes document. It will show us the odds for each of these cards. And this is number of cases. So you're not just opening up a box, you're opening up a full case. And if you watch a Backyard Break stream, to my knowledge, most of the time they are doing individual box breaks, just because the price on these boxes now is so exorbitant that, maybe 5-10 years ago, you could do a case break at these prices. But now case break prices are single box break prices. So they're going through, if you multiply these out, you multiply these by 12 each, that makes it even a longer shot to pull them in an individual box, which even realistically then, the average Joe can't even afford to open one of these boxes, let alone an entire case of any of these products, especially something like Flawless that is now, what, $12,000 a box? I think it was even closer to $15,000 at one point in time. But when you have all three of these events together, are they mutually exclusive? No. It doesn't mean that if you pull the LeBron logo, man, that you are out of the running for either of the other two cards, and vice versa. To pull them all together, though, that means that all three of these events would happen. It means that we have to multiply the odds of all three of these together. So, what does that come out to? What are the odds that we were to pull all three of these cards at any given amount of time? We have an indefinite amount of time, but assuming that none of the boxes have been opened in any of these products, so we know that there's an equal chance to pull all these. Well, it would be 1 in 5 billion and 40 million. I know that was kind of a weird way to say it, but yes, these are the odds right here. 5 billion, 40 million to pull all three of these and have all three of these events go off. To give you some perspective, the odds of winning the Mega Millions jackpot is 1 in 302,575,350. So, in theory, you could win the Mega Billions jackpot more than a dozen times in the time that it would take you to pull all three of these cards from a product, which would lead us to believe that, yes, there is such a thing as influencer boxes. Now, let me give you the counter arguments against this, perhaps. Is Backyard Breaks just that lucky? Perhaps. I'm not showing you anything here that is definitive proof that they are receiving juiced boxes or cases from Panini, or that these product hits, the cards that everyone is chasing when they engage with this product, whether it be through joining group breaks or opening boxes or cases, whatever the case, no pun intended, may be, these are the cards that they're going after. What are the odds that the same people pull all three of them? Well, it would be one heck of a coincidence. Let's just put it that way, based on these odds. Considering, to put it in perspective of a lottery jackpot like that, this is an exorbitant odds in comparison here. So that would lead you to believe that, yes. Now, maybe there's also the argument that Backyard Breaks does rip more of this product than 99.9% of the hobby. There are very few breaking companies out there that go through these products at the rate, in terms of the time it takes them to go through it and fill up these breaks, and also the volume in terms of the number of units that they are moving on behalf of Panini, or any company for that matter. If you look at a big company like Leighton, you look at someone like Platinum Card Breaks, these guys are moving product constantly, especially with Backyard. I'm pretty sure they have at least someone streaming 24/7, 365, pretty much on Whatnot, which is a platform that is specifically designed for this fast-paced movement in the hobby. So, yes, that would make sense that these guys, they open a lot of product and therefore they would get these really big hits. What I will tell you right now is that, kind of looking at some of Leighton's pulls over the last year or so, the only one that I can really remember that was a massive product hit was the Tom Brady 1/1 green kaboom that was hit out of Absolute Football. But one of the things that's key about that is that Absolute Football, I would say, is a different animal than any of these three. We're talking about Flawless, Prism, Optic. These are some of the most coveted brands in the hobby right now. And this is only talking about these three cards. We could look at other examples. For example, they recently opened up a box, they being Backyard Breaks, of National Treasures that contained a Cade Cunningham true RPA numbered 10. It also happened to be that it was number 2 of 10, which is his jersey number. I don't want to go that far as saying that they're getting specific jersey numbered cards, but they did get that one out of 10 too. So when you add that event in there too, the odds become more and more extreme. Now, another counter argument to this as well is that if you took the best hits that I have pulled in my lifetime, just take the top 5 and you multiply the odds out, it would also be a very high number. So, yes, someone has to hit them in theory. When they hit them and who hits them is completely up in the air. We saw the Justin Herbert 101 Prism Black Finite rookie pulled over the summer, a card that people have been chasing for what, year and a half, 2 years now. and it finally surfaced after all this time and so many people putting so much money into Herbert cards, and it was in a break on YouTube that card finally appeared. So again, is this conclusive evidence that it's happening? No, there is no definitive way to prove this unless Panini or Backyard Breaks came out and said like, yeah, we get juiced boxes or something like that. Would that ever happen? I really don't see a day where that would happen. But hey, I have also seen crazier things happen, including these three cards all pulled by the same person. So I got to imagine the odds of that are better than 1 in 5 billion plus, right? So in the context of this example here, let's just pretend that based on what I have shown you today, I wanted to say the evidence I've shown you today, but is it really evidence? Well, it's just kind of putting that point out there. I'll leave it up to you to think and ask yourself and answer for yourself. Are there such thing as influencer boxes? And I would love to hear your feedback in the comments section down below if you do believe that is a fact. Well, let's pretend that it is. If there are influencer boxes, what would be the benefit of Panini purposely sending these biggest hits to these breakers where it kind of negates the ability of other people to pull these cards, and therefore you have to pretty much exclusively join these breaks, right? Wouldn't that be more beneficial to someone such as Backyard Breaks to pull these cards out? Well, it goes both ways. In theory, once these cards are out of the product, it should lessen the appeal of the product, right? There shouldn't be as much excitement around 2020 Prism football because the Herbert 1 of 1 is out of play. You cannot pull it if you open up a box right now because someone else has already pulled it. So that lowers your ceiling of the best possible card. But there are so many parallels now and so many different types of case hits that there is always some kind of monster card that is lurking that can justify the cost of these absolutely absurd wax prices in this day and age. There's always that next monster hit that is lurking. Is it perhaps the biggest one that is out there? No, no, it's not. But there could be something that is right up there. You don't have to go for the best card. There's still, I'm sure, plenty of low numbered gold prisms or even 101 black prisms and the recent years of prism releases, not to mention all your other fan favorite products, I guess you could call them, with Optic and National Treasures and Flawless and Immaculate, all of these releases that are circled on the calendar, these highly anticipated releases. But at the end of the day, these cards being pulled out does generate excitement. It does make you feel that there is actually a chance. It provides a sense of realism, and it's one of those seeing is believing type of things. In order to justify the cost of these box prices, people need to be able to see results. And when you're seeing these really massive cards get pulled and seeing what they sold for, it encourages people to go back and open the products because, well, you can see what is actually possible. In order to do that as well, you need to make sure that these cards are put in the right hands. I'll tell you a story about 15 plus years ago. There is the infamous Evan Longoria Superfractor that was put into 2006 Bowman Draft, I believe it was. So the 101 Superfractor, a card that is the most sought after card in the product at the time. And, there's other guys who have surpassed his legacy, but a very important card in the hobby that never surfaced. Allegedly, there have been rumors around. I think someone actually did pull it, but there's never been definitive proof that the 101 Longoria Superfractor ever came out of that product, which might be a bit of a problem for someone like Topps that wants to promote, these big hits that are coming out. I know that we've been talking about Panini primarily, but if that card never really comes out, it's one of those scenarios where, well, are these big hits actually possible? So there comes this balance where, yes, you want to have those really large cards still in there. And with these products being absolutely loaded with these low numbered parallels, numbered to 25 or less, that will make your money back on these boxes, despite how difficult they are to hit and hitting them of the right players. It does make you think that those big card expectations are still attainable whenever you open up a box, even if the biggest card is no longer available to you. With that said, I keep saying that a lot. I'm sorry that I'm using the same mannerisms over and over. but yes, taking that into consideration, it is important that these big cards are pulled in the eyes of, Panini or any manufacturer by people who will publicize them, by put them out there, because it helps sell their future products as well. Uh, Especially these products that have a big reputation. The fact that the Cade Cunningham was pulled out will help sell next year's Prism because, well, remember what the Cade Cunningham sold for, whoever the next big guy is in this class. Think about what their one-on-one could sell for, or with Flawless, when 2021 Flawless comes out, when you're chasing guys like Cade, Mobley, Giddy, all of them. There's maybe not something as elusive as the triple logo man, or as allegedly coveted as the triple logo man. Just ask Ken Golden; he'll tell you how important that card is. Jokes aside, uh, there's still that big hit potential there, and it will create excitement around the upcoming releases. So it's good publicity, and it also puts it in the hands of someone who moves a good volume of product. People will see that. And it also extends beyond just the backyard breaks because, yes, indirectly, Panini is making money off of backyard breaks. They are buying the product either directly from Panini or a distributor, as most major wax dealers or breakers are doing. So that money ultimately is going back into Panini somehow. The fact is that, while the breaks are filling, backyard breaks is collecting the cost of wax that they had previously paid for. So yes, Panini is reaping the benefit of it, despite the fact that people are paying into the breaks almost in a middleman way. They are paying backyard breaks or any box breaker to open the packs for them, with getting certain teams or certain serial numbers, however the break may be formatted. They'll get all those cards, where that money is ultimately going to Panini with backyard breaks, making some margin of profit along the way. Sometimes there's also a distributor that is put in there as well. We don't need to go into the whole supply chain model for how wax is distributed, but it all does come back to the manufacturer at the top in most cases. With that, with that in mind, we take a look at someone like Backyard Breaks opening it, where they are actively collecting the money. But why don't we look at the YouTube side of things and your influencer box breakers, those who are opening up these boxes on YouTube with the question of, is it worth it? I see that in the title of every major release. There's at least one person who does a video of like, is Optic worth X $100 a box? Is Prism worth this amount? And they're not only opening just the regular ones, they're opening the hybrid. They're opening the no huddle. They're opening, what are the other ones too? The T-Mall. All these different variations of the product. Some of them will even go into the retail side of things, your fat packs, your mega boxes, your blaster boxes. So all of these different configurations. And we're able to see these people open these boxes. And even if you can't afford, or let's say, for example, a kid can't afford these really expensive hobby boxes, perhaps they can convince mom and dad, or perhaps, more grown individuals can justify the cost of, say, a blaster, which, even though it is marked up, maybe it's 40, $50 for a blaster of Select or Prism or Optic, whatever your preferred brand may be, there is still that potential that, okay, maybe I could hit a downtown out of this Optic. Maybe I could hit some low number die cut out of Select. Will it be as worth as much as those 101s? No, but seeing these big cards pulled does create excitement around the product and creates this idea that there is some value to be had by opening the product. Really, I don't think Panini, this would contradict some of what I said before, but they don't care as much that you open the product as much as that they are actually moving the units. So as long as they're collecting their money and someone is buying the product, it really isn't much of their business as to what they are doing with said product. However, they probably should care if there is some kind of manufacturing error, like we saw with the Topps Chrome, missing extended short prints, or putting like the 75 years of the NBA cards into the wrong sets where they switched up the Prism, the Optic, which that one is a minor issue, but we've seen some other issues in terms of quality control that really aren't addressed all that often. And by people opening up the products, it kind of exposes people to that ahead of time. So that could be one of the downsides of some of these influencers. Of course, I imagine if they are getting some of these boxes at a healthy discount, which I suspect that they are, especially those who are tenured, who have been around and purchasing boxes for several years now and cases and moving high volumes, they have definitely have grandfathered in deals uh, that they're probably not going to say too many bad things in fear of biting the hand that feeds them. So, in my opinion, what is the deal? Are there actually influencer boxes out there? I would say that given the odds that I showed you here, it would be highly improbable that that was not the case, that it wasn't intended for someone like Backyard Breaks to uncover a lot of these really big cards out there, especially in the time frame that they did on something like the Cade Cunningham card, which I think is most interesting because it was pulled the day before the product's initial release. If I am not mistaken, it was either pulled on a Tuesday or a Thursday before the product's official release on a Wednesday or a Friday. I believe it was a Tuesday, Wednesday type of deal. Don't quote me on that, but I know for sure that it was definitely a few hours before the technical release day of the product. And Panini and Topps in the past have usually had a soft embargo on those types of transactions where people are doing breaks or opening up the boxes and posting the singles online before the product's official release. And it seems that that is definitely a lot more lax today than it was several years ago, at least in my experience. Perhaps I am wrong on that, but it seems like there's a lot of people who are opening up these boxes on video and putting it out there more frequently than you would have seen 5 years ago, and doing so before the intended release date of the product. So, how does this really impact us as collectors? Well, be advised that you don't want to be too impressionable. I see younger people in particular and kids at shows when there is some kind of influencer or some kind of pack ripper who is going to be at these shows, that they are excited to meet them, that it is like meeting a celebrity of sorts. And that is no disrespect to any of these people. I don't know them personally, and I'm not going to pretend to, and I'm not going to insult them or anything. But be keep in mind what they may have in place to receive these boxes, perhaps at a discounted price. Because oftentimes I don't hear them saying that they paid a certain amount for a box. I often hear that they say what the retail price is of the box or what one of the major wax distributors is selling these boxes for. So something to keep in mind there. It's okay to look up to these people in terms of their personality if you feel like you can connect with them. Again, that is not my issue. In fact, I don't really have an issue with it, but it is just more so a caution that a lot of times some of these boxes that you'll see opened by high profile breakers or individuals on social media, there might be a reason why these high profile cards are popping up where they are. And that is not always a realistic expectation of what you will pull if you were to go open a box yourself. And I just don't want to see anyone get burned opening up one of these $1,000 boxes thinking that this will be them and that they will pull all these big cards, because a lot of these boxes are built to only give you maybe 20% of your value back. And sometimes even that is being generous. And that's assuming that current market values hold, which we've definitely seen is not been the case with a lot of players and a lot of cards of those players over the past few months, and really since the decline of the hobby's peak back in the spring of 2021, 18 months ago. So just something to keep in mind. But that is it for today's Sports Card Psychology podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed the new format. I hope you enjoyed me kind of going in, crunching the numbers a little bit more than normal on this show today and figuring out what the actual odds are of Backyard Breaks pulling all three of these cards. Again, this isn't meant to be a knock on Backyard Breaks. If they have some kind of thing in Panini, in place with Panini, more power to them. I'm not going to be participating in their breaks. I don't really join breaks unless it is a friend to begin with. So it's not really something that is of my concern. But it is something that does definitely impact the hobby, and I would hate to see anyone get burned for any reason based on this information, or I guess these theories that we have kind of crafted on today's show. So I'll see you on Thursday with a new episode of the podcast. Until then, take care, stay safe, be kind.